Hi friends! Today we are going to make a really simple little washcloth. We are going to be using garter stitch, which means we're only knitting, and we are going to knit up a really simple little washcloth. For this washcloth, I'm going to have 15 stitches. So I'm going to count my stitches. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. I'm going to cast on 2 more. So my yarn that points to my ball is pointing away from me. My tail is wagging toward me, and I'm going to, ready, remember this, I'm going to put them in that triangle. I'm going to go out, up through my thumb, go over and grab my yarn, come back down through my yarn, pew, gonna go up my thumb, grab that yarn, come back through. And I didn't need to worry that my tail was getting a little short because I was only casting on 2 more stitches. Okay, ready? Now comes the exciting part. We see our nice twist from our long tail cast on. Our knits are on the top. We're going to turn our yarn around so that instead of seeing the twist, we're going to see these little bumps. That's where the garter stitch, my dog is playing with the toy, sorry. You can see these little bumps. That is where the garter stitch part comes in, because in stockinette we would be purling, because these are actually purls right here that you can see, because our twist is on the other side. See, here's our twist, and you can tell because these are just bumps. Okay, now you want your tail still to be pointed toward you, and you want to use this yarn in your knitting hand when you're holding your knitting needle. Okay, so I'm going to pull, push, okay, and my yarn is going to be over my finger, just like I do when we make the triangle. It's going to be like that for knitting too. Okay, now here's where this hilarious new thing that I just learned comes in. Some people hold the tail, because if you knit with this tail right now, which I have done a bunch of times, you will use up the tail rather than the yarn on the ball, and you will have a very short knitting time. And you can back it off, but I've done it, seriously, I've done it a million times. So that's why some people hold it so that they know they're not knitting with the tail, or you can just let it dangle. Either way. Okay, so we're going to go in the front of our knit again, okay, just like we did last time, to the back. Whoops, pushing through the bottom of the yarn. To the back. We're going to make an X, right? Now that's what we say for stab it. Now we're going to take our yarn and come up and over the top. That's wrap it or strangle it. Now our yarn, strangle it. Now I use this pointer finger, and you see I didn't before, to hold on to it. I'm going to push my needle down through that hole. That is called scoop out its guts. And then I take that knit and I throw it off a cliff. Okay, I'm going to push all my knitting up a little tighter. I had it all kind of stretched out. And are you ready to do this a second time? Okay, here we go. We're going to, in the front, so this is the back of your, so when it goes up and over your needle, this is the front, this is the back. I want you to make sure that you're putting your needle in the front of your yarn and making an X to the back. It feels weird at first, but it won't feel weird after a while. And then you're going to go up and over, hold on with your pointer finger, down through the hole, throw it off a cliff. Ready? Let's do it again. Stab it, strangle it, hold on, scoop out its guts, throw it off a cliff. This yarn is so fat, I have to do a lot of pushing up of my stitches. When you have smaller needles and smaller yarn, you don't have to do that. Okay, ready? To the front, stab it, wrap it, strangle it, scoop out its guts, throw it off a cliff. I think it's so funny. Stab it, strangle it, scoop out its guts, throw it off a cliff. Stab it, scoop out its guts, throw it off a cliff. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Slide these guys down. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can do it. You feel the rhythm. You kind of get into this like meditative. Okay, now I'm on my last 3, and they're really starting to want to slip off altogether. So make sure you're using your thumb as you're holding onto your needle to make sure that these are grounded and on your needle so they don't come off when you're using that one stitch that's out there, okay? Here you go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we got our last 2. Here's 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. And eventually I don't even have to really lift it up. My finger kind of does the work for me. Ready? Watch this. 1, 2, 3, 4. We did it. Look at that. Okay, now we have, look at that. You can see your bumps. So you knit all of these. Now we get to do it again. Flip, wee. You're knitting over, and look, you made bumps on this side. That's why that's the garter stitch. The garter stitch is all knits and knits and knits. And what you actually see is the purls really show up. In between them, you can see the knits, but the purls are what stick out, which is why this makes it a really great washcloth. So if we were doing stockinette, like on this sweater, that's when you can see the little V's, and we'll learn to do that when we learn to purl. Or if you're knitting in the round, you don't need to purl yet. So watch what happens when we do this a couple times. I've knit a couple rows, 3, 4, I'm not really even sure. If you peel them apart, you see those knits, right? But really we're noticing the purls. And if I turn it over again, whoa, look at that, look at this. It's really coming out here. Okay, isn't that exciting? So let me also tell you something that happens, and it is an accident that happens often. Okay, so now my knitting's on my knitting needle. Sometimes what happens is when people are done and they've thrown that last one off the cliff, they hold on to their yarn and turn it around. Now, when I've done that, you see what I did there? What did I do? Read your knitting. That's what we call it. I pulled this stitch up. And instead of having one stitch there, and you can really see it with the variegated yarn, I've made 2. And if you do that, what's going to happen is instead of having a square washcloth that you knit up however big you want it, it's going to look like a V, okay? One side, actually both sides will probably get longer, and it'll start like, it'll just angle because you're gaining a stitch on each side, so it's just going to grow out. So when you have your yarn and you're finished, you can actually give that end, you know, you can give these ends a little tug down, okay? And turn it around without holding on to your yarn, because that will remind you that this yarn needs to be pulled under to the back, okay? You only want one, you want to use that one stitch. All right, one stitch to the back, weave it up however you like for your tension. Some people hold it like this and just do this one. I do a little weave. It seems to give me good tension. Remember, we're knitting with the yarn to the back of your work each time, even though technically right now we're on the back. So the front of our yarn is always where we can see that first twist. That's our front. This is our back. Oh, I've spread out my, again, silly goose. Okay. Guys, it's happening. Making a washcloth. All right, good job. Pretty soon we're going to learn how to cast off.